Hi everyone, this is Rich from the Rich Maxwell channel. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, this channel is about drones and photography. I've got loads of drone and photography videos on here already and more coming out every week, so please subscribe and maybe like the video if you find it interesting. So this video is going to be talking about a lens that I own, purchased myself, so just going to give my sort of unbiased opinion and review of the lens. So this is the Sony 50mm F1.8 for crop censored cameras. Now Sony produced two 50mm lenses, so it can be a bit confusing. One of them is an FE lens, which means it's for the full frame cameras, and then this one is just the, well, it's the SEL50F18. So this is the crop censored 50mm lens. Now they're quite different lenses. I've owned the 50mm full frame lens and this one, so I can give a little bit of a comparison opinion of them both. But yeah, this is for the crop censored cameras, the A6000 series cameras. So if you've got a 6100, a 6300, 6400, or a 6600, or whichever 60 whatever 100, this is going to work on your camera. So the reason that you might want to get this lens is that it's got a nice low f-stop and it's pretty cheap. It's probably the cheapest lens that you can get for the Sony E Mount cameras after you've got your kit lens, and so yeah, it's a nice lens to pick up. It's at f1.8 will enable you to get some nice blurred out background, sort of bokeh effect to your shots. So if you want to get some nice portraits or nice photos of your family when you're out and about, then this lens is certainly one that can do that for you. It's well built. It's made of all metal material, so it feels really good. It's got a metal lens mount and comes with the lens hood, lens cap, Sony ones. So overall looks really nicely built. It's not too big, and at 50mm, what's really nice about it is that with the crop censored cameras, it is effectively working like a 75mm on a full frame camera. Now on full frame cameras for portrait photography, most people's favourite sort of focal length is 85mm. So at 75, this is getting pretty close to that sort of focal length, and that focal length for portraits is going to just enable you to get a real nice perspective on people in terms of how the human eye sees people, and it's going to mean that you're not sort of stretching out people's faces slightly when you're doing headshots. You're not getting that sort of distortion that you might get in like a 35mm lens when you're taking portraits. So that's why it's a really nice lens for portrait photos. And yeah, like I said, f1.8 is going to be really good in low light. It's going to get you that blurred out bokeh effect. And the reason I picked up this lens is because it has optical steady shot built in, whereas the A6300 does not have any sort of in-body image stabilization. So for video work, I wanted a lens that would offer a little bit of stabilization, just to take that sort of little micro jittery sort of edge off the clips that I was filming. I had an A7 II before I picked up my A6300, and I picked up the A6300 camera just really for video work. So the lenses I had for my A7 II, they didn't really have any OSS built into them, and when I used them on the A6300, it was just too jittery with no stabilization at all. So that's why I ended up having to get some of the crop censored lenses. Now the OSS, it does work quite well on this at 50mm or equivalent of 75. It is going to be a bit challenging to keep it nice and stable when you're hand holding your camera, as the image stabilization can only do so much, and lenses that are wider, like 15-16mm, they tend to look a lot smoother when you're doing video. It's much easier to just keep that steady. When you're zooming in a bit, it is harder to keep stable and stop you getting those little jitters in your shots. But it's better than no stabilization at all having that OSS, so it does help a little bit and does enable it to be usable handheld for video. So that's really good. Now I'm going to jump over to the computer now then, and we're going to talk about the image sharpness. I'm going to go through some test images that I've taken of a brick wall in my garden, as I always do when I review a lens, and it will just show you the sort of center corner sharpness at various apertures. So here we are, we've got some test images from the 50mm F1.8 APSC lens. So this is the F1.8 test image of a brick wall. I always like to choose a brick wall to do my test images, as it just shows all of the sort of texture and detail. It's quite a nice sort of simple image to shoot. And yeah, so F1.8, it looks pretty sharp in the center. It's not perfect, but it's a perfectly usable, sharp enough image. And then in the corners, as you can see, it's getting a little bit softer than in the center, as you'd expect at the widest aperture. And then at f3.2, we're getting sharper. That's the center of f3.2, and you can compare that with the center of f1.8 there. So there's quite a difference there in the detail. So you're getting much more sharpness at f3.2. And in the corners, f3.2, again a little bit sharper, it's still a little bit soft. And then going up to f5, we're getting a tack sharp image there in the center, and the corners getting much sharper. So that's the corner there at f5. We'll compare that with the corner at f3.2. So you can see there's quite a bit of a difference there. And now going up to f9, let's have a look at the corner. We can do a little comparison quickly. So there's the corner at f9, comparing that with the corner at f5. You can see it's getting even sharper. So f9, as we'd expect, very nice sharp image all around. And then going up to f13, it looks like it's a little tiny bit soft there in the corners. Center looks a little bit softer than it was at f9. Let's compare. So there's f9, and there is it's f16, not f13. F9 versus f16. So f16 is quite a high f-stop, and it's just starting to get a bit softer. And then at f22, we'd expect it's even softer, which, as you can see, it is. So the optimal seems to be to use this at maybe f9 if you want the whole picture in focus perfectly. But yeah, f3.2 looks really good in the center. It's only out towards the edges it gets a little bit soft, but not too bad at all. And then here's some test images around my garden of a few flowers. And so you can see that we're getting a nice bokeh effect from the lens here. Nice, quite circular bokeh shapes there from light sources, such as this, well, that's a steel patio heater that's just reflecting a bit of sunlight, but it's nice circular sort of glints of light coming there, which is really good. And it looks like it's pretty sharp. So this is f1.8, and as we saw in the test images, it's not the sharpest setting for the lens, but the images that it's producing are looking perfectly usable. In post, you can obviously develop these up and get some really cool effects from them, darken out the backgrounds a bit more and that sort of stuff. But these are just test shots straight out of camera to show you what the lens produces. And so yeah, it looks a really cool lens. So this lens, would I recommend it? Absolutely. I recommend it because it's one of the cheapest lenses that you can pick up for your Sony E Mount camera after your kit lens, and it's just really versatile, really good for portrait photography, and it's got the OSS, so it is good in video. Focusing on the lens looks really good. It locks onto my face really well when I'm jumping up and down in this image here, and this is a good test for the lens as it's at f1.8, so a really shallow depth of field. It's having to go between focusing on the fence at the back of my garden to my face here, which is much closer to the camera, so it's quite a big distance to change the focal range, the focusing point by. And as you can see, it's accurate, it's locking on every time really well. So very good focusing mechanism in the lens. It's nice and quiet as well, unlike the full frame 50mm. And it's a good price lens as well. I picked it up from a place here in the UK called Computer Exchange, or CEX as they're known as. So on their website they have loads of different used electronics and stuff like that, and their camera lenses, the prices tend to be better than a lot of other places. Is a bit risky because it's all second-hand stuff, but this lens that I bought off them came and its condition was like brand new, so I was really pleased with it. It didn't have a single mark on it. It didn't have the original box, but who cares about boxes? But it's yeah, spotless lens, and it doesn't look like it's been used much at all, to be honest, so I'm really happy with it. And yeah, I'd highly recommend picking it up at the price I paid. It was £129 on CEX. On Amazon I think you can get a brand new copy for about 230 quid. And so if you prefer getting a brand new copy, go on Amazon, follow the links in my description, and yeah, pick up the lens for yourself from there. So I hope this has been useful. Please subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and watch out for more videos in future. Bye for now, everyone.